Welcome to Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180 with your host Clay Kerner, and I'm Marty Pay. Clay, you and I had a busy week. Yes, we did. We went to an event for Kevin McCarthy on Tuesday. Then our good friend Harley Pinson invited us to a Bench and Bar Award dinner on Thursday honoring...
That's your good friend, Harley Pinson.
Harley's listening too, you know that. Honoring Barry Goldner for his service to the community. 2 insurance agents sitting there with a room full of attorneys. It actually was a fun evening.
It was a great evening.
Yeah, I had a blast. Friday we got to have lunch, or I got to have lunch with a couple of agents and our own state Senator Gene Fuller. All in all, it was a very busy week. I wanted to thank our district attorney, Lisa Green, for joining us in studio last week. That was a great interview, and I don't know, I was very impressed with her. That's really the first time I've met her. I know you've met her several times before that.
Well, you know what I found interesting is I asked Lisa if she was going to run, and she really was non-committal at the time. But then as we go to all these different events, I noticed Lisa's at all of them. So she's building up a case, I think.
Clay, she's only been in office for 4 months. Give her a break.
3.5. 3.5.
3.5?
Yeah.
Okay. Next week, we've got an interesting show. One of the events you and I attended a few weeks ago was the California Citizens Redistricting Commission meeting here in Bakersfield. Next week, we've got a panel of people that were at that meeting, and we're going to discuss the commission and everybody's thoughts about the meeting. Ted Fowler, Michael Bowers, Keith Woolridge are going to be with us. There's another meeting in Lancaster this Sunday from 10 to 2. But the public comment section doesn't begin until 2 o'clock, and that meeting is going to be at Sierra Toyota, which is at 43301 12th Street West in Lancaster. So anybody who's interested in the redistricting, I would suggest going to that meeting Sunday in Lancaster. Ted Fowler, who's going to be one of our guests next week, used to own a dealership in the Antelope Valley, and he's got a great story about Obama Motors and Ford. And he's going to talk to us about that as well as him talking to the commission here in Bakersfield a couple of weeks ago. Speaking of Lancaster, another good segue on my part, today's guest is an old friend of mine, the Board of Equalization member representing our area, former state senator, George Runner. George, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Good afternoon, Marty and Clay.
Hi, George.
George, hey. I have to tell you, after having a show with Clay for almost a year now, I can really appreciate having you as a partner when you and I did this so many years ago.
Well, Clay can appreciate all the stuff I had to go through.
Thank you very much.
Did you guys talk before the show? Hey, I understand you took a little hike up to Saddleback Butte this morning?
Yeah, I try to get out when I'm at home just to kind of find somewhere to kind of hike around and whatnot. So I took a nice morning hike up Saddleback Butte. Great view. Good boy. You could see 360 degrees from basically the Victor Valley all the way through the Antelope Valley over to Gorman. It just is a nice clear day today.
Wow. So, how long of a hike is that for you?
It's actually, how long is what?
How long of a hike is that?
Oh, it's 2 miles up and 2 miles down.
Okay. Oh, so it's not that bad. No, I thought it was a lot longer than that.
2 miles up, 2 miles down up the butte, about 1,200 feet elevation. So
okay.
It's a nice little morning walk, and beautiful view up there. The wildflowers are a bit dry. There were a couple of them that you could see, but it's a little past wildflower time. Yeah,
it's getting there. You know, George, I was looking at your district this morning. I didn't realize how large your district is.
Well, the district, there's only 4 districts in the state of California that are Board of Equalization districts, and so each district has to represent about 9 million people. And so, you have to divide up the state then in that way. And this particular district happens to be by far the largest. It's actually about 65% of the land area of the state of California. And, so you can it starts down in San Bernardino County and, runs on over to all of Ventura County, some Santa Barbara County, and then runs right up the San Joaquin Valley to the Oregon border. So wow. It's a good-sized district where you got to find, it's got a lot of desert and a lot of mountains in it, but also has about 9 million people in it.
Well, what exactly, for a lot of our listeners that don't know, and they should, but what does the BOE do? What does the Board of Equalization do?
I'm not sure they should, unless they all of a sudden have to be one of those people get audited by the BOE. Then they really need to. Let me give you my my little short spiel on the Board of Equalization. California is the only state that has an directly elected Board of Equalization. A lot of other states have tax courts, or they have appointed boards that deal with the same kinds of things that or it's an agency within the governor's office that deals with the kinds of things that the Board of Equalization does. The board is made up of 4 members that are elected by district, and it has a 5th member on it, and that's the state controller. So that makes up the 5 members that sit on the board. The board has a number of different responsibilities. Originally, the board was established back in the late 1800s by a vote of the people to add to the state constitution. And the whole purpose for adding it back then, and hence the name for it, was the fact that railroads were being assessed different amounts by each county for the property that they owned. So you'd go from L.A. County to Kern County, and you'd be assessed different rates. And depending upon how aggressive a particular county was, the railroads were having difficulty with that. So the legislature put on the ballot the idea of having certain property values appraised statewide, and those would be properties that have a purpose that runs across a county line. And so, hence, they voted for that, and that's what created the Board of Equalization back in the 1800s. So, from that, then, we still have that responsibility, but then because of the nature of changing technology and programs and uses, we have that not only for railroads, but then any kind of pipelines that take place that go from county to county, any kind of utilities, wires, underground utilities. All those issues are all then appraised then, and property values are set by the Board of Equalization. Most of those don't fall under Prop 13, so they're actually set as a result of that and calculated. So that's the original side of that. On top of that, then, oftentimes when there was a tax issue, there was a decision to go ahead and give that responsibility of collection, of regulation of that tax issue to the Board of Equalization. So the big one that most people kind of respond to and see and know is sales and use tax. And so, for instance, in Bakersfield, there's a BOE office that basically services folks who are wanting to get a seller's permit and basically then start their business, and part of their business is collecting a sales tax and how to remit it, when to remit it. Those kinds of things are what are a big part of what we do. But in addition to that, there's about 80 different other special taxes that we deal with, and some of them are dealing with the issue of valuation. For instance, a big part of what we deal with is some valuation of different kind of assets and properties that again across county lines that are unique in that way. And so that's what we do. That's one of the issues.
Sure.
I don't know if you want to talk a little more about that. I can shift into some of the other issues that we deal with, appeals and those kinds of issues. But that's kind of a big part of what we do.
Sure. When we get back from the break, let's talk a little bit about the revenue issue, okay?
Okay.
As far as sales tax and everything.
Good.
We're having a conversation with 2nd District Board of Equalization member George Runner on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.